Hi.
Hey,
Well,
Chandler.
Hey, Alexander.
welcome to stream 2 of the Google Next Extended Developer Party. How are we all doing this evening?
Everything good, and you? Is everything fine?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good. We're are you London based? Is that right?
Yes, correct. I'm based in London right now. Yep.
Cool. And you're Dublin based, aren't you, Chalky?
Yes.
Cool. So how long have you been in London for, Guilherme?
Almost two years and a half living in London. But as you can see from my accent, I'm from Brazil. I'm from São Paulo. And I decided to live a little bit abroad and get more experience. And living in London, it's been amazing.
What was the weather shock from?
Oh, terrible. Yeah, not really friendly for sure. Yes, it's been a challenge sometimes, especially in summertime. But it's good. It's a good city. It's a good country to live for sure.
Yeah.
You guys had good summer this year.
Yes, correct. Believe it or not, it was a good summer. Yeah.
I've got a colleague who's from Venezuela, and she's lived in the UK for about 4 years, and she's now finally started to accept Manchester's rain.
Yeah, it's completely. It's a shock for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Not
Same. I have
especially the
only started
weather.
accepting the rain in Dublin recently. It's been 4 years now here.
Yeah. So, Guilherme, what's the I suppose how's the scenario that we're living in at the moment treated you? You're all safe, everything?
I'm not sure, to be honest. It's I don't know actually how we can do that. I mean, in terms of effects, what to change this part. To be honest,
Yeah.
I would not say nothing special. I would say.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a learning curve for me because I've been office based for so long. So like, this is probably I think 2 months before this was the longest I've worked from home. So it's been a bit of a shock to the system working for such a prolonged period of time.
Yeah, for sure. It's adapt. We need to adapt in this case. That's the only way that we can do for sure. It's nothing else that we can do. So we need to be adapt. We need to be resilient and do our best all the time. We need to adapt.
Yeah, definitely. I've met an awful lot of my colleagues' pets, which is an awful lot of cats and stuff like that in the background of calls. And we've got Stephanie on as well. Hi, Stephanie.
Stephanie is here as well.
Hi.
Hey, Stephanie.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, perfect. Hi. How are you all?
Yeah, we're good. Thanks.
Good. Yourself?
Good. Yeah. What time is it over there? Is it evening?
Evening. 6 o'clock for us.
Okay. Nice. Well, I don't know if you heard, but yesterday in San Francisco, it was night. It looked like it was nighttime all day because we have fires across the entire state. And so the sky was completely orange and dark, like it was nighttime. So it's pretty crazy. Now it's a little bit better.
Oh
you
my
can see.
God.
Yeah, my friend sent a picture of it. It looked good on a picture, but I don't think I'd want to be there.
No, yeah, I didn't go outside at all. It felt like we were on Mars.
Not a fresh air to breathe.
Right. Right. But anyway, thanks for having me today.
No problem. So I think in terms of running order for today, we've got Guilherme up in about sort of 5-10 minutes. So you're going to be running through things, and then Stephanie, it's over to you at 1:45.
Okay.
We'll want to keep it nice and tight on timing and stuff like that because we've got a fireside chat taking place just after up on the other stream. So we'll kind of decamp and move over there once your slots come to an end. But yeah, should be a good.
So I start at, just to confirm, you said I start at quarter till the top of the hour until 10 minutes after?
Yes.
Or 15 minutes after? Okay.
Yeah.
15 minutes after.
We're in the strict instructions to make sure everyone stays on time. So.
Okay.
So what is the weirdest thing that you guys have seen in the background of a Zoom or Meet call in the last 6 months since we've been on lockdown? So I had a call with somebody the other week, and they've got like one of these really weird cats that's like the short-haired cat. The only way I can describe it, it looks like a bald cat. And I didn't know they had this, and they were just sort of having a call, and out of nowhere, it jumped out of the curtains and across the living room in the background of the call, and it scared the life out of me. It was definitely an odd experience, like that one. But yeah, like I said before, I've met so many of my colleagues, random cats and stuff like that. It's definitely a strange period to be working remotely for so long.
Yeah, it's not been easy to work from home for sure. I don't have kids, but if you have kids or even some pets, cats, dog, could be a nightmare because sometimes you cannot just close your door and the pet is scratching the door for you, wants you, barking and so on. So it's a little bit weird, weird times, and like I said, we need to adapt to that. So how we can do that?
Yeah. So I guess like, if you guys, what's the sort of biggest achievement, Guilherme, you've got from a sort of Google perspective, in terms of sort of accreditations and stuff like that? Is there one thing that you kind of like stick out in your kind of Google career, so to speak, that you're really proud of?
Probably what I'm talking about today, which is my visit to the data center. I feel like that was the most interesting thing I've done.
What was that like?
Well, you will hear about it in 40 minutes. It was really interesting. I mean, I had to get my eyes scanned, so I feel like now my company knows everything about me, down to the biometric layer. But yeah, just like the level of security was insane, and just meeting the executives and the operational staff that work there was interesting and definitely eye-opening. So yeah, I would say that.
Cool. And Guilherme, what about you?
I would not say something very special, but for example, if you just search your name on Google, it could be a little bit weird. At least it's an interesting perspective, an interesting thing that you can do and see some results. And could be, I'm not sure, but for example, I was advised to create some alerts using your name as a search. So if a lot of people are searching your name on Google, so could be something not bad or not really good for you. So it's something that you definitely you need to do.
Yeah.
Every time I Google my name, characters from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
And you can find very interesting results on that based on your name, some spelling. It's interesting. My last name, for example, it's Quelhos. It's a Portuguese name. And it's very similar with Coelho, which is a rabbit in Portuguese. So it's a mess, the results that you can see on the searching page. But it's very interesting, and you can see other people, famous people that has a similar name as you. So it's a nice thing to check it out.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I always try not to Google my own name.
When I do, I see submarines.
Yeah, if you're Googling your own name, it tends to be when something bad's happened, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And yeah, I guess kind of like how have you found working in the UK? Have you always worked at Genesis then, Guilherme? Is that right? Or?
Yes, correct. Yes, I worked for Genesis before in Brazil, in São Paulo. Then I decided to move a little bit abroad. So I lived 2 years and a half in Lisbon, in Portugal. And then Genesis again just sent me a message, Guilherme, do you want to join us again? So we have an open position for you. By the way, we are hiring, so just send some notes. In fact, I have the same manager. It's the interesting part. So I just advise, so I'm leaving, and some years later, my manager sent me another message. So if you want to come home, just come.
Nice. And what about you, Stephanie? If you worked at Google, how long have you been there for?
Just over 3 years.
Right.
Yeah, I was a customer engineer previously, the first year that I was there, and that's what I had been doing previous to Google at Oracle. And then once I started creating video content, that's when I got brought over to developer relations to continue to do that full time.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like you've had a pretty good experience there, getting to have a look around a data center and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My next goal is to try to make it to the subsea cable implementation, if I can ever travel again, and make a video about that, but we'll see if that ever happens.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah, I've always thought they still have like those like airship type thing, not airships, but like the sort of data centers out on the bay or something like that. I always thought that was quite an ambitious.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't even heard about that. That would be the third episode.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Guilherme, you're up in a couple of minutes. So for anybody who's kind of just missed 15 minutes of golden rambling, do you want to give us a bit of an intro into yourself, and we can put your slides up on the screen, and we'll let you get on.
Yes, absolutely. So hello guys, my name is Guilherme Quelhos. I'm professional services at Genesis, and I would say that my role at Genesis is especially to build some build and improve customer experience in Genesis customers, in Genesis solutions. It's not easy task since it's a customer facing role, but it's definitely has a lot of good things to do, a lot of challenges, a lot of learnings. Definitely something very interesting and facing check. Hello? Hello guys, am I alive?
You are live, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. Sorry, okay. So yeah, definitely it's an interesting position, customer facing role. So I'm going to share my screen and start my presentation with you guys, and I hope you enjoy. So Google Dialogflow. So before actually we are jumping the Dialogflow, I want to phrase and remember some interesting points. So conversational experience. So everything right now, it's about conversational experience. So they are quickly becoming the mainstream UI component for all kinds of apps right now. Entire generation of consumers, I would say, use voice as the primary way to do search on the web. Not only on the web, but we have a lot of use case for that. Customer service and contact center, for example, applications are most of the obvious use case today, I would say. But of course, we have some interesting use case on commercial sector, home entertainment, and others. Important key behind customer conversational experience is the natural language understanding. So working with that by recognizing a user's intent and responding accordingly based on training data. So NLO is the important key for us. And have in mind that the conversation is the new UI. So be ready for that and be ready to deliver a good customer experience. It's also very important to understand and have in mind that you need to have a good design for your bots, for your agent when we are talking about Dialogflow. You cannot only build your NLU. Well, of course you can build, but there is a lot of challenge. Few companies have the expertise to build one, and consumer expectations it's very high. Don't try to boil the ocean. It's very important to try to define a very good and strong use case, so you can easily build your use case that will help and solve all your customers' problems. Human escalation is required. I would say that's a must-have. So be wary if your customer, your consumer, types some interesting or help expressions. So you need to prepare to forward your chat or your call for a human. Google Dialogflow. So as most of you already know, so it's the platform for building conversational experience. Basically, Dialogflows use syntax analysis that allows you to extract tokens and sentences, identify parts of the speech, text, or voice, and create dependency parse trees for each sentence. Entity recognition enable agents to identify identities or labels by types such as person, organization, locations. Sentiment analysis, it's one thing that you can find on Dialogflow also. My favorite one, multi-channel support. So integration with Facebook Messenger, Slack, WhatsApp, all the channels that Dialogflow supports. So basically and also interesting that each channel can have a specific response. So you can build a specific reply for each channel. Multi-language supports, it's must have nowadays. Companies are international right now more and more, so it's important to support a variety of languages. I'm not going to go deep in details how to create intent entities, but everything goes around training phrases. So what kind of phrases that your customer can type for you, can tell you, or just chat with you. Then we can create some intent, and intents will try to identify what the customer wants, what kind of support that you need to provide to your customer. And you can use entity to extract part of the information. So time, location, company names, and so on. Some interesting features, tools that we have available on Dialogflow. So we have this spelling recognition, spelling correction, sorry. Basically, you can help your customer if the customer types something wrong. So like this example, so pizza with one Z, it's completely different from pizza with double Z. So try to enable and have some improvements on your conversation with your customer. Speech features. So speech adaptation is something I would say, almost new on Google, and it will help you when the customers say whether or either. So we have a lot of different ways to say accents, different countries, for Ireland, UK, American English. So could be a plus if you enable this toggle and see some results. You can use text to speech also, as you can see here. In this case, if I type something, I just send some messages. I can also have a wave file. So, and actually it works pretty good. It's not a robotic way. It's very human-like. Knowledge base. So knowledge base, it's a fantastic actually use case to start building your bot or your agent. It's a search and rank feature. It's not doing only word matching, so it's try to understand what the questions from the FAQ and try to match us with a specific answer or even some documents. So, for example, you can use if your company, for example, or your customer has FAQ URL with some information, you can just use the URL and import on Dialogflow. It's a very interesting and common use case to start using Dialogflow. We always have some issues when we need to build something and go to production. Versions, different production environments, versions environments in Dialogflow. You can deploy in multiple versions. Have individuals, let's say, if you want to create some specific environment, so development, testing, and in production, you can have specific agents for each one. So it's a must-have also. And if you can, of course, you can create specific versions for each environment. Talking about the versions also, you can have only one version that you can manage, that you can build on top. So basically, you need to click on the specific version, the specific environments that you create, and load to draft. So draft is the only version that you can manage and you can change or improve and so on. And of course, we have an easy way also to eventually export your agent, your bot, and import in other environments, other accounts, especially accounts. So when you create your bots, your agent, you need to specify your project, a Google project. So you can just export all your agent and import in other projects. Training. Training is also an interesting tool that you have available. So when your agent is trained, basically Dialogflow uses your training data to build a machine learning model specifically for your agent. So you normally provide training data by entering training phrases to match specific intents. You can use the training tool to analyze conversation data and to improve your training data. So for example, here, as you can see, you have some conversations. So actually, it's part of just one conversation, some messages. So you can have some add to this phrase to intent, X, for example, or add this phrase to the default fallback, for example. You have some options here. So you can see this a conversation, you can see some messages, you can define if that specific message or text, it will be better in a specific intent. So you can just add. Validation. So the validation results are just for information, basically, but they provide a list of errors and warnings that you should correct, or just be aware that you can use them to improve the quality and the performance of your agent. So for example, there are no negative example for the fallback, or if you need to specify more training phrase to match a specific intent. So it's very good to take a look and see if you are providing the correct or the number enough for the training data. Because in the end, everything will will be around the training data. So it's important to have appropriate data also. History, the history page shows a simplified version of the conversation. So you can see an example of some messages for your agent, your bot. So in this case here, I just want to show the pizza example with 1Z and double Z. So for the first example, the intent was not met. So in this case, my spelling correction was disabled. And after that, for example, or just another test using I want a pizza with double Z, the intent was correctly matched. Analytics. So, well, basically, you can manage. You cannot manage what you don't measure, right? So, analytics provides. It shows a virus agent request and response data statistics. So, for example, the next one, that's one of the my favorite one for intent path. This view represents intent nodes with connection intent path lines. So basically one intent and the next intent. Intent path line shows a frequency value for how often an intent follows another one. So considering the number of intents that you have, how many persons or interactions pass through this line, this path. So it's a good way to identify if you have using a lot of the same intent to try to cover a lot of your scenarios, for example, or if it's better to segment and create different intents. Session path, it's very similar to the intent path view. This view represents the connection of also of intent, but especially it will show you after any intent when it wants complete, so the complete paths. So you can see in a better view, especially considering this completely different UI. If you have a kind of loop in considering some intents, or if you, once you match one intent, if you need to go to other intents, or even if you will be all the same intents. Integrations. So basically, it's important to have integrations, right? So Dialogflow agents can be enabled in multiple channels or and surfaces. The interesting point using Dialogflow, it's integrations, and that you can use Dialogflow to build your bots in just, and these bots will cover all the other channels. So you just need to build once and enable to all your channels. So you have some text-based channels like Facebook Messenger and Slack, and open source, some like Skype and Twitter. And of course, we have also telephone, so Genesis Clouds. And Dialogflow also has one beta feature that will enable also a phone gateway for you. You don't need to build from scratch. Sometimes it could be a good way, but you can use pre-built agents. So you just need to, and actually you can even start from scratch your agents and just upload, let's say that, or you can just consume part of this pre-built agent. So coffee shop, currency converter, banking date. So you have some phrases, intents for each scenario, some these examples. So if you don't want to, let's say, have a huge working with data, for example, calendars, so maybe you can use one of the pre-built agents. And one of the big announcements from last week, I'm not sure if most of you have already the opportunity to take a look. So Google Dialogflow CX, so the customer experience, it's still in beta, and I would say that probably will be for enterprise companies. It adds some interesting features. So visual flow builder, so interactive flow visualizations, allow conversions builder. So it's a better way for us to build the flows that we have when we are talking about chat bots or voice bots. It's a good way to, especially to manage that, so you can see what's going on, what is your flow, how does it work. Basically, the flow builder enables you to work with flows and pages. That I have some example here for you. State-based data models, so allow developers to, I would say, reuse intents, intuitive, define transactions and data conditions. The conversation is managed by states and transactions. So, and this offers excellent controls in terms of flows. Native IVR settings, this is very interesting, and I didn't have time enough to take a look in more details, but I would like. Optimize for contact center AI deployments and integrates with popular telephony platforms. So Genesis is one of them. So it will support IVR settings like bargain, DTMF, so deal time multi-frequency, and especially the handover for agents. So if your customer cannot communicate, cannot talk correctly with your agent, your bot, so you need to forward for a real and human agent. So just an example that I was trying to, I was playing a little bit with this. So basically you have some flows, and for each flow you can create a number of pages. So in this case, it's just the start flow, and then I create ordering pizza flow. On this flow, I create one specific page that will have, I would say, basically will work with my intent, which is the ordering pizza. So flows are used to define topics and the associate conversational paths, basically. And pages will be especially for to use to maintain a state machine. So the states of a session are represented by pages. And for each flow, as mentioned before, you can define a lot of pages. So you can combine a lot of pages to a specific flow to solve a specific issue, for example. The contact center AI. So the contact center AI, it's basically the ecosystem, I would say, to using Google technology, use Google services. And in fact, Dialogflow is just one small piece on this puzzle. So Dialogflow is just part of the virtual agent AI. And in this case, well, enable your virtual agent to converse, try to converse naturally with customers, and especially assisting also human agents on complex cases. Google Cloud AI building blocks. So as you can see, Google provides you a lot of services. These are just the AI building blocks that you have, for example. And also you can improve your bot using fulfillments, for example, and call part of these blocks, these services. So translation, natural language. For example, eventually you can build one bot that will receive some pictures from the customer. You can use it in Vision to identify the picture and guide a little bit better the customer. The 3 points, the 3 main importance for us, especially considering the contact center AI. So Dialogflow, cloud text to speech, and speech to text API. Just one talking about a little bit with the partnership about with Google and Genesis. So, well, we have a lot of say about Google for sure. So the recognized leader in terms of AI solutions, so machine learning, natural language understanding, speech recognition, and on the other hand, we have Genesis, so one of the leaders in customer experience solutions, focused on contact center markets, customer journey, matching and managing the interactions to the correct agent. So we will be you should be answered for the best human agent for you. Omni-channel, so it will manage all the interactions. So not only chatbots, chat interactions, so you can manage the voice and all the messaging, so WhatsApp, Facebook, and Twitter, and so on. And where exactly Genesis fit in this architecture? So you can have Genesis in the middle, so working as a bridge between the common channels, so messaging channels, phone channel, and Genesis will create and orchestrate all the bots or all the channels. So building a bot once and use the same bot across voice and digital channels. Realize faster time to value with pre-built industry-specific bots, so you can reuse part of the bot that you built for other customer, not other customer, but using the pre-built agents available on Google, and use the same on Genesis. So just reuse some of them. And this is the part of a little bit more details about the Genesis architecture. So in more details, so Genesis has two different solutions currently. The Genesis Cloud solution, so totally cloud solution, and the on-premise solution. So it's up to you, to your customer, to identify which the best fit what they want actually. And you can integrate Genesis solutions with Google service, so Dialogflow, speech to text, and text to speech. So you can have all Genesis solution, all the expertise that we have using the expertise that Google delivers for us. That's all for today. Thanks for listening.
Brilliant. That's thanks for that, Guilherme. I had a question, and I suppose other than within pizza delivery, what is the I suppose the specific industries that you're seeing sort of take up this technology at the moment?
Well, Genesis focuses on the contact center industries, but in a variety of companies. So it's small, mid, and large companies. And using Google services, we can improve a lot our services. So we have the expertise to manage all interactions. So digital channels, voice channels, and even non-voice. I would say that in a simplest way. In using Google AI services, we can build, especially in a very fast way. So we can deliver projects right now in a very fast way, because all the solutions, all the services are on Google are on the cloud. So it's very fast to deliver.
Cool. So basically, if you've got a contact center that this is a great piece of tech to sort of start to implement with a bot, essentially.
Yes, for sure. And not talking about only about the contact center world. So, but Dialogflow can provide you some interesting use case on other scenarios. So, website, for example, you can just enable your chat on a website. You don't need exactly all the contact center solutions for that. But of course, if you have a large volume of calls or chats, it's preferred for sure. Otherwise, you just need to go straightforward using Dialogflow APIs and some of the services that will be for sure a lot of, that will provide you a lot of improvements.
Oh, we've just had a question come through on the chat. Tibin. Is there an extra UI layer between user and Dialogflow when using Genesis?
Yes, we have Genesis components in this case. It's not, I would say, a UI. Just let me go back here for a moment. So it's in the simplest way. So we have a lot of Genesis, a lot of Genesis services here, and that will be your bridge with Google components. In more details, so for example, Dialogflow provides you some features, so fulfillments, for example, if you want to integrate your backend, you can do all your code on Google Cloud, but also we can use your on-prem solution, your own in-house development, or even you can just use Genesis to host your code and just integrate.
That's brilliant. Great. Is there any other questions for Guilherme while we've got him here on the call? There's a prize. Oh no!
Which prize?
It doesn't look like it. Oh, I think Tibin was possibly running away with it.
So feel free to reach me, you guys. You have my contacts. You can just send me a message on LinkedIn.
Well,
feel free.
Will you be hanging around for the fireside chat at 2:45? So at 7:15. You'll be on that one over on stream 1, won't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Brilliant. That's great. Excellent. Well, if there's any other questions that you've got, or you just think, you know what, I should have asked that, please do. Just hang around on the fireside chat, and yeah, we'll catch you there over on stream 1. But thanks very much for that, Guilherme. Thank you.
Thank you. See you guys.
Brilliant. So in a couple of minutes' time, over on track 1, we've got Dina talking around measuring DevOps through DataOps. But I think Stephanie, we're ready. If you want to crack on, and you can talk us through Google Cloud data center security.
Sure. Hi. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here today. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Wong. I'm a developer advocate at Google Cloud. Usually, I am always creating online content. So you might see me on the Google Cloud YouTube channel, creating videos on security, as well as a plethora of other topics like networking, along with Spanner database. I pretty much cover the full breadth of products and help product managers reach their developer audiences. So thanks so much for joining DevFest Extended UK. Thanks for having me. The last time I was in London and Ireland was last year, and then previously a couple of years before that. But last year, I was at the Google office in London. I definitely missed that trip because that was right before COVID had started. And then during that trip, I had just jumped off a plane from visiting a Google data center in the US. So that's why I'm really excited about the topic today. I'll be covering data center security. As you know, hope is not a strategy when it comes to security, and it really does take best practices, proactivity, measures at all layers of the stack, and even ingrains itself in the company's culture, people, and organizational design. So that's what I'll be covering today. So how can Google Cloud actually help you and your organizations with your security? So there are a couple things that we employ before I jump into the data center aspect. First, we provide protection from threats through a secure foundation. So again, I'm covering today the core foundation and the infrastructure that is designed, built, and operated with security in mind from the start. And then second, we provide you with a constantly expanding array of controls that you can use to help meet your policy, regulatory, and business objectives. Because as you know, there are a lot of standards and regulations that vary from country to country. So as we design our products and our data centers, we keep that in mind at all times. And then lastly, we, as I just said, work to meet our compliance responsibilities and provide capabilities to make compliance easier for you. So first, let's talk about the protection that you get from building on our infrastructure foundation at Google. And this is something that we've built, obviously from decades ago, just from creating our own products and services for Google search and all the other outward-facing products that you're used to using as a consumer. But our infrastructure doesn't actually rely on any single piece of technology to make it secure. Rather, we build security through a progressive layered stack that delivers this defense in depth approach. Our hardware is controlled all the way down to the hardware and OS level. It's built and hardened, and any application binary that runs on our infrastructure is deployed securely. Really, our approach, it lies in our belief that we should not assume any trust between services that are running. And we also use multiple mechanisms to establish and maintain that trust. Our infrastructure from the beginning was actually designed to be multi-tenant from the start for obviously efficiency reasons, but also from a security perspective. All identities, users, and services are always strongly authenticated, and data stored on the infrastructure is automatically encrypted at rest and distributed for availability and reliability. Communications over the internet to our cloud services are encrypted, and the scale of our infrastructure allows us to absorb most denial of service attacks. We also have multiple layer protection that further reduces the risk of any DDoS attacks. And then finally, our operations teams can detect threats and respond to incidents 24/7 every day of the year. And I'll go into more detail about that in a second. We also have a more in-depth online resource or white paper about our infrastructure design that goes into a lot more detail. And the way that Google Cloud approaches many of our infrastructure designs are fairly unique and often custom made. So I do want to start by zooming out just to focus on our hardware components and our infrastructure that is, going all the way out to the data center level. So as I mentioned, I got a chance to visit a data center last year, and I made a video about the experience that you can all check out. The link will be at the end of the presentation. This was a massive project to undertake. It was not easy to get approvals or even step foot inside the premises. In my job, I spend my days working and reaching out to developers, and our data centers are crucial to the work that you all do. And most people and most users don't have the ability to set foot inside a data center, of course, because of security reasons. And as you can see here, they do span a huge amount of space, and it's interesting that there's less than 1% of Googlers that get to even set foot in them. This one here is 352,000 square feet, and since I might be the only American in the room right now, it's about 33,000 square meters. So I was determined to make a video because for close to 2 decades, Google has designed data centers from the ground up. Security has surfaced as one of the most critical elements of our data center's DNA, and it's also part of our commitment to keep all of our users' data safe. And it's a way that Google Cloud can meet more than 45 regulatory requirements globally. So our products regularly undergo independent verification of their security, privacy, and compliance controls. And that's how we are able to achieve certifications and attestations of these audit reports against global standards. So what this means is that an independent auditor has gone in and examined the controls present at our data centers, at the infrastructure layer, and then even against our operations that occur in person, and some of the measures that happen. So these certifications include most of these widely recognized internationally accepted security standards. In the EU, this includes the GDPR and a number of other certifications across the EU like TISAX, EBA, and CSE, and then more. There's also a bunch in the US, of course, ISO 27001 for security controls, and SOC 1, 2, and 3 for financial services, which are some of our most stringent, along with HIPAA for healthcare. So these certifications help us meet the demands of these rapidly changing industry standards. There are some called CSA STAR and PCI DSS, as well as other regional standards that occur at a country-to-country level. So it's definitely a rapidly changing environment, and it takes a lot of work to continuously meet these standards. So upon my visit, I was able to learn about how Google actually employs this 6-layer defense to thwart any unauthorized access. And I'm here to give you my firsthand experience of what that was like, moving from the exterior layer 1 all the way to the deepest layer 6. And that's where, of course, the data center server floor exists and where your data resides. So it was not something taken lightly, but I was able to learn about all the precautions taken to keep your data safe 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do it is because we have a few videos and experiences out there, but I felt that a lot of cloud providers provided these videos that seemed very stern and serious and kind of was just like, I'm driving into a data center and this is, you know, it felt very cold in terms of the tone. So I wanted to provide more of a fun experience, showing you what a personal perspective would be going through from somebody who's not experienced or knowledgeable necessarily about all these layers. And then also I wanted to showcase what makes our data centers unique. So starting with layer 1, and I don't know why this isn't loading. Well, okay. Starting with layer 1, here we go. The secure perimeter. So basically it means the property boundaries, and that includes the signage, the fencing around the property. So it's not too exciting, but usually data centers are located about an hour away from a city. There are a number of data centers located across Europe that actually I find more interesting than the ones in the US. Some of them are even located next to geographical locations that have a lot of sustainability measures and really take use of the natural environment around, like for example, in Finland, we have some in Belgium. And so, you know, it might take you longer to even approach it, but when you do first approach it, you're going to, of course, notice that there are secure perimeter around the entire breadth of area that you'll be seeing. Doesn't mean that people don't try to visit anyway and ask for a tour. So when things start to really get interesting, it comes to layer 2, and this is actually known as the official secure perimeter. This part includes the main entrance gate. And this is something that is more or less standard across our global data centers, because we've tested and made sure that we've standardized these measures across locations. So this data center in particular is located in Virginia, and actually no, this one's in Tennessee in the US. I started my journey here by driving up to the gate, and at which point this is where I needed to get my credentials and identity checked. Even before stepping foot into the property boundaries, I was already on an access approval list. There's no way I could have even reached this point unless I had already had my credentials on this list. The least privilege protocol is the idea that someone should only have the bare minimum privileges necessary to perform their job function. So if your least privilege is to enter layer 2, then you will not have any luck moving on to layer 3. Each person's access permissions are then checked at badge readers starting with layer 1 and progresses more stringently at layer 6. And these exist everywhere across the data center facility. I mean, you can't move, 50 feet without getting your badge checked again. And this is something we employ not just in the data center, but it's a best practice that we always recommend for you to set up within your organization running on Google Cloud for any resources and data that are running in the cloud. You may have already heard this privilege and this protocol before, but as you know, applying least privilege to IAM roles on TCP is recommended so that any user has the bare minimum roles and permissions to perform their function. So for example, you may only have the necessary permissions to access read level access for BigQuery tables, for example, and you cannot perform anything else, or maybe only being able to view or edit compute engine VMs. So same thing we apply at the physical layers at the data center as well. Layer 2 has many, many more security features ranging from this sort of smart fencing to overlapping 24/7 cameras and guard patrols on foot and in the cars. There's a lot more security and technology at play than meets the eye going on behind the scenes. So from the time that you're on site at a data center, they already know that you are there. What I found interesting is that they're able to do correlation analysis of where you have been on site at any given moment through these cameras, through the badge access tracking, etc. There are also guards in vehicles and some guards on foot. And as you can see through this GIF, there is also a vehicle crash barrier fence. It's the red fence that is coming out of the ground. And that is designed to stop a fully loaded truck from crashing through the front entrance. So as you can see, the security threat and severity is high in terms of what possible risk can occur, like physically to people. So it's all about not only keeping data safe, but the people that are working around the clock. We need to make sure that they are safe at all times as well. So this particular fence that you see here in black that is surrounding the perimeter is an anti-climb fence. You can see that the spikes are pointed outward. It can be pretty hard to try to climb over that fence in one piece. So it's really just to thwart anyone from trying to climb over it. It's also equipped with fiber, and what that means is that it tells security operations if someone is near or touches the fence. They also use thermal cameras, and they also use standard cameras. So that means that they're able to see video footage at night just as clearly as they can during the day, and each camera overlaps the area that it can cover. So there are no blind spots anywhere around or in the data center. You also might be wondering, what if somebody skydives into the property or tries to dig under the ground? And trust me, they've thought about all of these scenarios, and they constantly perform tests to make sure that those that are employed at the data center can be immediately prepared for anything that occurs. We have I think in one of our data center locations, there's like a moat or some sort of like swamp area around. And so there are like signs that warn people about possible crocodiles in the area, which is kind of interesting. But that was already part of the natural environment. So it wasn't a security measure, but definitely something to warn people about and maybe prevent people from trying to go in. So layer 3 is building access. In this case, I was able to enter the lobby, but just so you know, this is actually nowhere near the data center floor. There's still 3 more layers until we get there, 2 more layers until we get there. So let's just say you've gotten through the gate, you've come into the secure lobby, you have your card or a form of identification, which is checked by the receptionist to make sure that you are on an access control list. So in case you lose your card or you don't have a form of identification, then there's again another form of authorization that needs to happen. So for that reason, biometric scanning is also employed at this layer. So that means that I had to actually get my irises or my eyes scanned. Definitely an interesting experience. Felt like I was on a top secret mission in Mission Impossible or Ocean's 11. And more recently, I've been hearing that it kind of feels like it's a challenge for Professor from Money Heist to try to break through. But yeah, it was definitely something that's unique to our data centers. We don't do this at our offices, of course. And then one thing I found interesting was when I was in the lobby, the receptionist sits behind this sort of separated room. So you're not really able to, it's almost like it was COVID fortified in the sense that there's like a clear wall between you and the receptionist, and they have to enter through a completely separate area of the data center because they have that level of access, whereas we don't. So it's fully isolated. So once the biometric scanning and registration was taken care of, another rule exists at a data center that prevents a vehicle or individual from trying to follow a person to gain entry into the next restricted area without a badge swipe. So for example, you see here in the circle lock, if a system detects that a door is open for too long, for example, or somebody tries to enter the circle lock with another person, it immediately will not let them into the next door, or it will alert security personnel. Any gate or door must be closed before the next vehicle or person can badge in and also gain access. So you've probably seen dual authentication when you try to sign into an account and a one-time password is sent to your phone. We also take a similar approach at the data center to verify a person's identity and access. And at some layers of the data center, you're required to swipe your badge then enter a circle lock or this tubular doorway, and then you have to walk into this half portal that checks your badge and scans your eyes again to gain access to the next layer of the data center. And this prevents anyone from following you through because only one person is allowed into this circle lock at a time. So something that's not shown in the video is the facility loading docks, which are a special section of layer 3. And this is used to receive and send shipments of materials such as new hardware into the data center or to send out. So truck deliveries from vendors must already be approved for access to layer 3 to be able to even enter this dock. Now this dock is outside of the data center. You can see here in the red, that would be the gate or the door that would allow them to back into the layer 4 data center itself or the layer 3. So I guess, sorry, let me explain that again. So the truck is actually outside, moves and backs into layer 3. They can unload whatever they need to. And this whole layer 3 is physically isolated from the rest of the data center. Also, you can see here layer 4 is the rest of the data center. And then guard presence is required when a shipment is received or sent. I actually got super lucky when I was there and got to witness a shipment being made of new servers being delivered into the data center. And it was very interesting to watch as the truck backed up into the loading dock with guards communicating with one another to allow them in safely. And of course, in order for them to even get to layer 3, they had to have been on the access list to allow entry into layers 1 and 2 before arriving at layer 3. Guards checked everything before letting them into layer 2 and subsequently opening the garage door to let them back up into the room. And then out came fresh server racks one by one. Once unloading was complete, then the vendor would leave and hardware operations began to move each of those giant servers into layer 4, meaning that those hardware ops needed to badge themselves in one at a time with the hardware into the actual data center. So you're probably thinking of your favorite movie, wondering what if supply chain gets intercepted along the way. Additional security checks happen for that potential risk, and we have tested for many possible, man in the middle or risk scenarios that I will talk about in just a moment. Layer 4 is once you've actually entered the data center itself. So this is beyond the lobby, beyond the loading docks. And this includes an extremely important part of the data center security, the Security Operations Center or SOC. And that's a hive of activity that is monitoring the data center 24/7, 365 days a year. So that means the doors, the cameras, the badge readers, the iris scan, everything is monitored from this location. It's sort of the brains of the data center. Anyone on site at the facility will have their movement patterns tracked throughout the property via their badge and biometric scans at entry points and doors. If a door is kept open for too long, as I mentioned earlier, or if correlation analysis finds that their presence in an unauthorized location, alerts will be sent to the SOC instantly. So if there's anything out of the ordinary happening, they have to be able to pick that up right away and send the right personnel to address it. The SOC of all Google data centers are also designed to roll up to a regional SOC, and that essentially gives it multi-regional high availability. If an on-site SOC were to be disrupted due to an event like a natural disaster or emergency building evacuation, monitoring instantly rolls over to the regional SOC for continuous uninterrupted monitoring. The SOCs also act as a center for emergency and safety purposes in addition to security responsibilities. These SOCs monitor and respond to alarms at all of our facilities and are constantly tracking local and global events that could impact operations at our data centers. So again, think of it like high availability for physical security. And really what that means is you also are benefiting from the deferred high availability for logical security and data protection as well. So layer 5 is the data center floor. And this means this is where the servers and network equipment that power Google live. Security in this layer is, the most highly restrictive because this is where data resides. This means that when I entered, I needed to enter a circle lock, get my irises scanned, and have my badge checked. once I was physically in that server room, I was accompanied by guards at every space that I walked. And I was also accompanied by the VP of Global Data Center, Joe Cava, who took me around. So in this area, only hardware operations personnel, security professionals, and key people are granted access on an as-needed basis, and their access is time restricted. Access is limited only to the time required to complete the necessary job function. This means that this is truly an as-needed only access area, meaning that only the technicians and engineers have to be there who need to maintain, upgrade, or repair equipment are ever going to be allowed inside this area. This layer is protected by a circle lock, as I mentioned, security staff, and a badge-protected door. Some of our data centers even feature laser beam intrusion detection, and additional cameras are placed throughout the area where security will staff and monitor the data center floor at all times. If you're wondering, Googlers do not have access to any of the data residing here unless you have authorized it for a specific technical issue. At the data center, technicians have access to the devices, but the data at rest is encrypted, and then you can also issue and keep your own encryption keys. And then fun fact, when I was here, the camera crew had to leave their equipment in a secure storage area in layer 5 every single night that we filmed or when we wrapped up. And if they wanted to take any of the hard drives out with them after filming, every hard drive had to get checked for encryption or they had to upload it to a secure cloud storage system. Basically, it was high security checks for even the footage that was filmed. And normally you can't even walk out of a place with a piece of metal because there are metal detectors that are required when you exit the area. So layer 6 is disk destroyal, or as I like to call it, it's sort of like a hard drive graveyard. It's like you can just walk in and it's eerie because you see all these broken and crushed hard drives. But Google employs a strict equipment chain of custody monitoring. And what that means is that we meticulously track the location and status of all equipment in our data center. This means that we track the location and status of every hard drive from acquisition to destruction using barcodes and asset tags. So these asset tags are scanned throughout a hard drive life cycle in a data center from the time that it's installed all the way to the time that it's removed from circulation. Tracking hard drives closely ensures that they don't go missing or end up in the wrong hands, etc. We also make sure that hard drives are properly functioning by doing frequent performance tests. If a component fails to pass a performance test, it's deemed no longer usable. And to prevent any sensitive information from living on that disk, we remove it from inventory to be erased in destroyal in layer 6, disk erase. And in order for disks to even enter layer 6, they have to go through this secure two-way locker system that you're seeing here, meaning that only authorized personnel that can retrieve it in layer 6 are allowed to retrieve it. When a hard drive is erased and retired, the disk erase formatter uses a zero filling method that wipes the disk data and replaces each bit of data with zeros. If the drive can't be erased, it's stored securely until it can be physically destroyed. And then, as you can see here, it's pretty impossible to recover data from these. And if you did try to take anything out with you, then of course, the metal detectors are there to prevent that from happening. So for this reason, leaving layers 5 and 6 is arguably even more difficult than entering. And we also employ a strict testing program where we actually employ undercover actors and they attempt to bring hardware out of the data center. And this helps to constantly test and improve our physical data center techniques. Urs, our SVP of Technical Infrastructure, who's basically built our infrastructure here from the ground up 21 years ago, even shared that we run dozens of these drills a year. And they use many means to try to get past controls except for violence. And this includes fake badges, social engineering, fake UPS trucks, ladder trucks to get over the fence, people hidden inside trucks, attempts during thick fog, and we usually win. And after every attempt, we always run a blameless postmortem to improve and make the next attempt harder. Again, this is what I call security culture, and it needs to be ingrained in your organization's culture. So as I said, this outlines sort of our physical security approach at the data center, but it definitely isn't an exhaustive indication of what we use. This also boils down all the way to our software stack, every layer of our stack from chip to chiller. And as I mentioned earlier, we custom design our OS just so that we can provide higher security with a hardened version of Linux. We design chips like Titan, which is our custom security chip, so that we can establish a hardware root of trust in our servers. And this rolls all the way to our custom data center designs. And this is how we sort of make sure that we can strengthen our security posture from the ground up. Just to quickly describe our encryption process, it is made up of 3 steps. And I've mentioned earlier that all your data is encrypted in transit and at rest. Data is first chunked into 3 pieces. Each chunk is encrypted with its own encryption key, and it's wrapped using another key encryption key. And then the encrypted chunks and wrapped encryption keys are then distributed across our storage infrastructure. So if a chunk were to be found, then you'd have to utilize your own encryption key for each chunk and then try to merge all of them together to even get access to the data. If a chunk of data is updated, it is encrypted with a new key rather than reusing any existing key. Another truly big differentiator, in my opinion, is the ability to update our infrastructure without disrupting any of your services using something called live migration. So updates usually add functionality to your applications, but from a security standpoint, updates also are required to patch software vulnerabilities. A perfect example of being able to live migrate, thousands of customers is the Spectre and Meltdown vulnerabilities that were found, and our teams were able to coordinate an effort to fix them. And if you were a Google Cloud customer at that time, you didn't even really notice. It was just fixed without any interruptions or downtime, and it was updated again when performance patches were rolled out. We actually didn't have any users call into support as a result of these rollouts and changes. So when you think about security, there are many other responsibilities, including our infrastructure, our network, our data, our applications, our identity and access, and endpoints. So here we are providing capabilities across GCP, G Suite, and any connected devices under this entire stack. Going back to control that you have over access to your data, we also launched a service called Access Transparency, which is a technical control, and that allows us to produce any logs at any time a Google administrator needs to access your data for support requests or maintenance. And we actually have to provide technical evidence that is immutable so that you will always know if somebody has access to your data. And Security Command Center is another risk database that we have available so that you can be more proactive about remediating your own Google Cloud security and data risks across your organization that we came out with last year. So you're able to run security checks on App Engine, GKE, Compute Engine, along with BigQuery. I'll skip this, but this is another cool feature. And I know we don't have too much time left, so if you want to watch my video, behind the scenes at a data center, check it out here at the link at the bottom. Here are my social media links as well. If you want to reach out with any questions, ask me about my experience. We also have the fireside chat that's about to happen, so feel free to ask questions in that forum as well. I really encourage you to check out the video and some of the resources that I mentioned during my presentation today. And thanks so much for joining Next UK Extended for DevFest here. And I'm going to pass it back to everyone else, and we'll see you over at the live stream for the fireside chat. Thanks again.
Thanks very much, Stephanie. Really cool chat, that. A couple of questions have come through, and we've got like 30 seconds to the fireside chat on stream 1. So I'm going to pick out just one from Andrew. Don't a lot of modern hard drives use glass platters? Could they get through the metal detectors?
Modern hard drives use glass platters. Could they get through the metal detectors? That's a great question. I would probably assume that when I was there, at least, it wasn't just metal detectors that were employed through layers 5 and 6, but there was someone physically there to check like the body of a person as well. So even if there was a risk that they could not be detected, I would say that there is additional checks beyond that. especially if you are going to be within layers 5 and 6 at all. So there's always people there to physically check whatever is on you as well. So yeah, just imagine it's like airport, but more stringent.
Airport, but more. I like that. Cool. Well, thanks very much for that, Stephanie. We're going to decamp from stream 2 and into stream 1 for the fireside chat. So if you'd like to, if you've got questions that have been asked and answered, I know there's a couple that popped up on the side. Please meet us there. The link has just appeared, just in the comments down there. So we'll see you on the other side. Thanks very much. Bye.